Climate change refugees assistance concept re-emphasized. Longest-serving pilot retires after 45 years. And governor encourages citizens to vaccinate.
This is National EMTV News with Dennis Orere.
Good evening and welcome to Sunday's News. A concept to assist climate change refugees in the Pacific region that was introduced by Prime Minister James Marape in the 2019 Pacific Islands Forum has been re-emphasized and is currently under consideration. This was made known during a virtual 9th Pacific Alliance leaders meeting this week, with PM Marape explaining the concept in a media conference on Friday at Manasupe House, whilst providing an update on climate change issues in the Pacific region. Climate change is a global issue that has indeed had an impact on the Pacific region, which makes up 1/3 of the Earth's surface. Given its vast waters that surround island nations from large to small, rising sea levels as a result of climate change is a fundamental issue for the Pacific region. Prime Minister James Marape gave a brief last Friday on discussions surrounding climate change from the 9th Pacific Alliance leaders meeting held earlier this week via virtual conferencing.
They have given their commitment to respond to the United Nations Paris Agreement that all carbon emitters and all nations will keep within work towards a commitment to 1.5 degrees Celsius of planet Earth. And so in that context, they've given the assurance. But in as far as Pacific region is concerned, of the 14 or 15 state Pacific Island Forum, almost all of them, if not all of us, have small islands that are being exposed to climate change. So,
the Conference of Parties, or COP, is the apex decision-making body of the United Nations Climate Change Framework Convention, which was formed in 1994, aimed at stabilizing the greenhouse gas emissions and to protect the Earth from the threat of climate change. Former Secretary General of the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, Dame Meg Taylor, expressed concerns on the issue of climate change in the Pacific region recently during a virtual media conference as part of her final words before leaving the office of the Secretary General. Dame Meg explained the Pacific region's handling of climate change issues from the Secretariat's perspective in relation to COP.
From a regional level, the Pacific Island Forum, in terms of islands, are just going to have to plough ahead. And when we get to COP, as we did in the past since I've been here, we're not on the same page. And that's really unfortunate. And now that I'm not Secretary General, that is what being one of my concerns. That when we get to the COP meeting, we are the influence is really through the PCs and through other mechanisms that have been set in place.
Dame Mag aired concerns on the issue, urging the world to take serious action about it.
The fundamentals in terms of temperature rise, moving away from fossil fuels, all those issues are covered in the Kanakai Declaration. But now we're seeing that the temperature rise in the next 5 years. I hope the world is paying attention to this. What does it mean for the future of our people?
Prime Minister James Marape proposed a climate change concept 2 years ago during a Pacific Islands Forum meeting, which is now being taken into consideration by leaders in the Pacific region.
I think that concept has never been thought of before. We've introduced that strongly from PNG perspective, that instead of relocation, we restore and rebuild islands through land reclamation. And I did offer a little bit of some of the mountains to be used to go and reconstruct the islands where erosion is taking place.
PM Marape said this concept has not been trialled yet in the Pacific region, but is aimed at having the original inhabitants of affected communities or locations to remain where they are whilst helping them to re-engineer the place to overcome climate change challenges. And he did offer some help from PNG's perspective should the concept be accepted and used.
Basically, instead of climate change refugees and relocation from their place of birth and their home or island of origin to another place, I said use of technology and the resource being mobilized to ensure we restructure the islands, we do land reclamations and allow them to remain put where they are instead of them being relocated. The Australian funds or Japanese fund, our bigger partners in the region, remobilize the fund for us to re-engineer the islands so the islands can remain put where they are instead of.
NCD Governor Powes Pakop has highlighted plans to upgrade existing roads and build new roads in the city. These road projects will be the Wildlife Road upgrade and a new ATS to 6 Mile Road. The governor says these new road initiatives will help minimize traffic congestion in the city during peak hours.
Everybody knows that we have put out the tender for Wildlife Road to be upgraded, sealed, and extended. So we have extended, I think City Manager will explain this when he comes on. We have extended the tender by another 2 weeks, but this is the last extension. We will do engagement right away so that we can upgrade and seal Wildlife Road, but importantly link it to Pit Street. So that will also contribute to breaking the traffic jam. The commuters going up and coming back, they can come through Wildlife Road, go through Pit Street. They are already in the center of Waigani. They can go to Tokarara or then right to go to Geru or wherever they want to go. But the important thing is that it breaks the traffic jam, especially during peak hours. That's one initiative. The second initiative along that line too, that can happen, I'm confident that within this year, is to build a bypass at the back of Jackson Airport, linking Manuti community, Japanese camp, ATS, Skyview, all those community up there to Jackson Parade. They can come that way. They come into Jackson Parade, 10 left, go to 6 Mile, they're going to 5 Mile, they're out in Morocco and they can go anywhere they want to go thereafter. But it will give them a fast entry and exit out into the city and out of the city.
100,000 fish fingerlings have been restocked into the rivers of Enga province. Fisheries Minister and Wabeg MP Dr. Lino Tom says this is a pilot project in Enga and once complete, they will do the same for all the Highlands region. It is the Fisheries Minister's desire that people balance their protein diet and fish is good for their health.
The Fisheries Minister and Wabeg MP Dr. Tom Lino, with the assistance from the National Fisheries Authority, restocked 100,000 fish fingerlings into the rivers of Enga province. The restocking was mainly trout, as it breeds well in the cold and on higher altitudes where no other fish species can survive. The idea behind restocking of fish into the river system is to provide food security for village people living in remote and on high altitude areas. Since the 1960s, there was no restocking of fish. The fingerlings were taken from the hatchery at the Kalopa Trout Farm and transported to Enga, where they were distributed and introduced into the rivers. The rivers that restocking took place were at Maramuni, Yokonda, Pilikambi, Sak Valley, and Kandep. Lilian Soperakinea, National EMTV News.
The National Research Institute, in partnership with Human Development Institute and PNG Women's Microbank Limited, held a policy dialogue in reviving the Stret Pasin Store program. Stret Pasin Store scheme was designed to offer credit, entrepreneurship and a business management skill to start up SMEs, however, was not properly managed.
Since its inception in 1970s, there were no records made available on the Stret Pasin Store scheme.
So what we found out is that a lot of information is now missing. One reason is we were told it's long time since that program stopped or ceased. So they kind of discarded all the old information. So
After conducting a research on SMEs in the country, the National Research Institute wants to revive the Straight Passing Store program.
And then they said, oh, we are also thinking about the same thing. Then we said, okay, if you are thinking about, one of our recommendations in that report was to revive the Straight Passing Store program. Because a number of people say it was a good thing, it was viable. So how do we revive it? The old model might not work because not many people are surviving with it up to now. So if we are to revive it, then we need to look at a few more bits and pieces to correct errors that were made in the past that could be corrected. And I think that's how the Papa Sam and Gunanidi Das picked it up. Oh, we have a solution. So they thought they have some ideas that can help to shape a new format of the Straight Passing Store program. One of them you've heard, they say that we don't need to focus only on the trade stores. We can expand to other businesses.
NRI will be partnering with Human Development Institute and the PNG Women's Microbank Limited to help SME grow in the country. NRA Acting Director Dr. Osborne Sanida says it is important for people to involve themselves in SMEs.
In order to be involved in business, business is just a system, but people are needed to be able to make business work. So what we have today, including the presentation by the microbank, is saying that how can we make business work by people knowing what to do and having the good character to do it.
Human Development Institute Chairman Samuel Tem hopes more people will be engaged in the future.
And I hope something will come out of this. And I'm encouraging everyone, why can't we all work together to put Papua New Guinea on the right path, to help the people, poor people, uneducated people, all types of people. Come and join us. Come and join my team of Mama Beng and the others. Please, I hope you will. We can make a difference to take back Papua New Guinea.
Podivai, National MTV News.
Papua New Guinea and Air New Guinea's longest-serving pilot has retired after 45 years and 21,000 hours in the air. Paun Nongor flew his final flight from Brisbane to Port Moresby on Wednesday, landing at the Jackson's airport at 2 p.m. Captain Nongor is also the PNG's first airline jet captain.
After 45 years and 21,000 hours in the air, Captain Paun Nongor, Air New Guinea's seniority #1 pilot, has hung up his stripes. His colleagues, members of parliament, family and children were there to welcome him home from his final flight.
Life has always been like this. If I want to go somewhere, I'll just get up and go. No plans. I haven't planned anything but retirement or anything like that. Nothing. So, planning is not for me. I'll just get up and do what I want to do in my life. Within reason, my kids are all big. They do their thing, so now I can do whatever I want.
Captain Nongor started flying at the age of 17. He attended NASA Flying School in Cessnock, New South Wales in 1975. In 1982, when he turned 26, Captain Nongor was the second Papua New Guinean to become captain on the F-27. The following year, he attained his command on the F-28, becoming PNG's first F-28 jet captain. In 1985, Captain Nongor began flying the iconic Airbus. And in 2003, he achieved his command as a fully fledged Boeing 767 captain.
My relationship is just with an airplane only. All this time, and I sometimes think that I've wasted all my time just sitting in an airplane and doing this work. But I see that I achieved a lot. I've carried so many passengers in my life. So that's a lot more than a lot of other people do. Probably millions of people that I've carried in my life and safely from one place to another. It's due to due to the fact that we had really good training. You know, when we were young, we were all brought up by Australians, and they taught us all the good habits and the right things to do. And they taught us how to fly an airplane. And that's exactly what I've been following all these years.
Although flying has been his life, he says his greatest achievement has been his children.
Of a parent is the children. As soon as a lady, as far as I'm concerned, as soon as a lady and a man have children, their life's finished. Irrespective of what you do, you're going to make sure your kids go all right. It's their turn. And you're the one who brought them into this world. So you better make sure they go right. You know? When you talk about flying, it's my kids.
Captain Nongor has 3 children, 1 daughter and 2 sons who are also pilots.
Obviously, he leaves very big shoes for me to fill. That's something I probably spend 2 or 3 lifetimes trying to achieve. So, obviously, he's accomplished something very special for the company and the family, the country as well. So, he leaves a big legacy and something to strive towards.
Captain Nongor's advice to young, aspiring Papua New Guineans who wish to become pilots one day is discipline and hard work. Lilian Sopera Kinea, National EMTV News.
National EMTV News continues with this week's A Closer Look after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. In the last 15 years, cases of sorcery-related violence have become very prominent, drawing international condemnation and horror. Hundreds of women have been tortured and killed, but those who work on the front line work largely alone with limited resources. The presence of state actors is also limited, and prosecution of the perpetrators is few and far between.
Usually, sorcery accusations and killings are reported in rural areas of Papua New Guinea where access is difficult. But within a space of 3 months in 2017, 2 women were accused of sorcery in 2 separate incidents in the heart of Lae City. When police arrived on the banks of the Bumbu River, the woman accused had been stripped, beaten and placed on a makeshift pedestal ready to be further tortured and burned.
Police
got there just in time. The woman was rescued and her accusers were arrested. But several days later, another woman in her 50s was murdered at Banana Block. Her body dumped upriver from where police rescued the other woman. She had been killed by people she knew, her neighbors and friends of her family and children. Her son, who had just left for the Southern Highlands the previous day, was called to return. Her killers made no secret of the fact that they had a hand in killing his mother because of an allegation that she practiced sorcery.
Past time, me bla family, me bla stam good. Bla boy am sick na, am die. Me stab house na, all 6 na, Paul pipe la mage all come na.
They dragged the accusing her of being a sorcerer who killed her own son. They came across the road where there were people doing their market, but they didn't help her. While coming down, they hit her, kicked her, punched her, and they also used bush knives to hit her.
In the last 15 years, Papua New Guineans have witnessed the most horrendous of crimes committed against women. Social media has brought to light what used to be kept in the confines of village communities. In 2015, sorcery killings and accusations drew international condemnation when a 20-year-old woman was killed in Mount Hagen by a mob after she was accused of bewitching a child. Kipari Lenyata was killed in the most brutal fashion, beaten, tortured and then burned under a pile of tires in Mount Hagen. She became the face of an already existing movement of people working to highlight the problem.
Because this belief is not, really creating a kind of harmony in the communities and within the families, but also creating a lot of disruption. People are forced out of their communities, and a lot of them were killed in, horrific circumstances. Being burned and being buried and thrown into rivers and pit toilets, and it was unimaginable. And so that churches became so concerned.
They lit a very big fire, stripped off all her clothes. She was naked on the ground, and they parted her legs. They tied her legs to the post.
While there has been a lot of discussion and demands to end the violence, the problems is a lot more complex than many outside of Papua New Guinea tend to make it to be. In cultures steeped with superstition, sorcery is accepted as part of human existence. It is difficult to kill ideas and beliefs that people gravitate towards in the absence of rational thinking.
And every time someone dies of sorcery, the church is totally silent.
Last week, Divine Word University hosted a virtual conference bringing together frontliners, researchers, and law enforcers to discuss a way forward. What was highlighted that many frontliners, those who rescue sorcery accusation victims, worked with very limited resources and got very little help in terms of support.
One of the things that we've been doing at Tribal is trying to make this everyone's business. It seems to be falling on few people that are always in the front line. And we're seeing that when it falls on few people, it becomes really hard, especially to sustain the work. It becomes really hard when the few money that you have, if it's only for, say, for example, with Tribal, if it's only for creating awareness or advocacy, like our Senis in Passing program, in the course of running our advocacy, we were coming across people that were being tortured, people that were being killed. And so then we had to do rescues and partner with people like Voice for Change or Oxfam, Kuswa, and send the clients that we rescue, we send them through. But then in order for us to report back, we realized that we were not actually tasked with the money to do those rescues. It was only for advocacy. Now, when it came to that, it became a challenge for us.
Among those who participated were Ruth Kissam and Anton Lutz, who over 6 years have tried to expand the network of support to sorcery accusation victims in the Highlands.
I've taken 4 tortured women and 1 tortured child in my vehicle to the hospital. But often my work is more in terms of enabling other people to go and do the work. So sending people phone credits, contacting the police for them, liaising with the human rights defenders in Nanga province as they move people to hospital and back to villages and all that kind of thing. Sometimes it's merely providing encouragement. So it's quite a large area that needs work, and without adequate resources from the state actors, it's very difficult for those of us who are on the ground to make sure that we're providing the best care possible for the citizens of Papua New Guinea who have been subjected to this illegal violence.
Getting help from authorities has not been an easy task. A growing number of organizations have found that they have to rescue sorcery accusation victims out of the hotspots themselves without backup of police or any government authority.
Still to come on National EMTV News, an update on COVID vaccinations here and abroad. Stay tuned. Welcome back. A staunch supporter of COVID-19 vaccination is the NCD Governor Poes Pakop, and a Member of Parliament is still encouraging citizens to vaccinate. Pakop said earlier this week that people must not be too relaxed in their view of the COVID-19 pandemic. He said he has taken the required 2 jabs of vaccination and so far hasn't had any side effects.
It is 2 years since the first case of COVID-19 was detected, and despite vaccines being available for countries around the world, most Papua New Guineans have opted not to vaccinate. The Delta variant of COVID-19, B16172, is becoming the dominant variant of COVID-19, and the international borders are closing down. This includes Papua New Guinea. A staunch supporter of vaccination is the NCD Governor Powes Pakop, who is still encouraging citizens to get a jab.
Me like asking Molgata Line not to relent and slow down and be complacent again like COVID-19. We have this tendency, the first wave, you may go easy, and then we are hit by second wave.
Powes Pakop said international travel and businesses in other countries were opening up because the countries had a high rate of vaccination.
You can look in Singapore, they are ready to relax. They are ready to live with COVID-19. They will just treat it as like a pneumonia or common flu. Why they can reach that? Because in Singapore, they follow the protocol. Now they are getting everybody to be vaccinated. So Papua New Guinea too, you may like go to this level where you may worry about economy, you may thinking about picking, you may all must go back to school, all must walk. How much time me talking about Papua New Guinea? You may all get out. Harim talk now, behind him now, go sim vaccine.
The governor of NCD gave an appeal that was serious about the misconceptions of side effects from the COVID-19 vaccine AstraZeneca, but one of his descriptions on a false pretense of the vaccination caught some of those present laughing.
Me sim vaccine here, all get a line of backside here, all sim vaccine, me pa no die, DNA no change. Not play here, we no grow the backside though. I need everybody to go and get the vaccine.
But this, of course, was no laughing matter and something serious, something that the public was told to consider. Fidelis Sukina, National EMTV News.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Athletics PNG are currently holding the first of two events in its new Grand Prix series in Port Moresby from July 2nd to 5th. The series, sponsored by PNG Air, follows a similar format to the big international one-day events where the best available athletes are invited to take part.
The PNG Air Grand Prix is an elite competition aimed primarily at athletes vying for places in teams for international events next year. The ongoing travel restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic has greatly impacted the nation's elite athletes' preparations. As a workaround to the current circumstances, Athletics PNG has developed the Grand Prix concept, enabling athletes to maintain their fitness levels in a competitive environment. The program also caters for those national athletes participating in events with a limited number of competitors. The Grand Prix also acts as a talent identification exercise for those events.
We have international events coming up next year, the mini games and the Commonwealth Games, and we need to make sure our athletes stay in shape. So they need competition, they need motivation to train. So this is the first of a two-part series. We've had 3 competitions here in Port Moresby, and we'll do the same thing again in Kimby later this year, the end of September, during the school holiday.
Other events are also being scheduled by Athletics PNG, exposing local talents to a high level of competition in preparation for upcoming national and international events.
We have the national squad athletes involved. We try to have them all involved, and then if there are spare lanes in, say, the 100 or 200, then we can put local athletes in. We do cater for a few other athletes as well, especially, there are some events where we don't have many athletes, so obviously we welcome a few more in those events, like the jumps and the throws.
Huxley Lovai, Trukai Sports.
The annual Moresby South Motu Koitabu netball tournament, which began last year, is one of the many sporting events hosted in the Moresby South electorate to showcase the local talents of Motu Koita. Yesterday, the junior division held its grand final, which saw the Kira Kira Team 1 take on Korobosea Team 1 in an absolute thrilling match that was fought hard until the full-time buzzer. the Kira Kira girls went on victorious in a close scoreline of 13-12 to claim the Komi Gaudi Cup.
This year, the tournament saw 6 Mutu Koitabu villages in Vabukori, Pari, Kirakira, Mauru, Korobosi and Taurama compete against each other. The indigenous Motu Koita girls battled it out in the blistering heat of the sun at the Southside Fitness Center, but it was Kirakira Team 1 and Korobosi Team 1 who stood firm to reach the grand final. Both teams claimed their grand finalist tags after making it through 5 days of grueling competition, but it was Kirakira Team 1 that got bragging rights as 2021 junior champions after closing the show 13-12, winning by 1 point. Officiating at the presentation, Mosby South MP Justin Chachenko was astounded by the suspenseful grand final performance and congratulated both teams on displaying great sportsmanship.
This is a partnership. We all work together as one. And through sports, it unites us all as one. So congratulations to all you ladies. Congratulations to all your teams. And thank you for having a fantastic netball competition for Motu Koitabu, Mosby South.
Kirakira Team 1 became the inaugural recipients of the Memorial Komi Gaudi Junior Cup, a tribute commemorating the late Komi Gaudi, an avid junior netballer from Korobosi village who was tragically killed in a home earlier this year. With the conclusion of the junior division, the intermediate and senior division will also commence. Both divisions will be competing for 3 months with finals scheduled for September.
We look forward to the continual competition coming forward over the next 12 months.
Suli, Trukai Sports.
COVID hard-hit India is no longer biosafe to host the ICC T20 World Cup set for October later this year. In light of this, International Cricket Council held a board meeting on the 28th of June and decided on a new venue. And Cricket PNG is happy with the new venue.
International Cricket Council announced that United Arab Emirates and Oman will be the new venues for the ICC T20 World Cup following a board meeting. The Board of Control for Cricket in India stated they've made every effort to stage the ICC T20 World Cup in India. However, the prevailing pandemic situation could not allow for. Acting ICC CEO Jeff Aladis extended BCCI's sentiments, saying despite the disappointment of not hosting it in India, a biosafe environment is paramount, especially in this global crisis. Cricket PNG CEO Greg Campbell stated the change was expected and he welcomed the change, adding the PNG Barramundis are familiar with the playing conditions in the UAE as this was where they played their last international game in the final of the World Cup qualifiers before COVID impacted the world. Meantime, the Barramundis are still planning to compete in a T20 series in Australia in August and will fly out from there to Oman on September the 2nd for their first T20 World Cup game. Kilawani, Trukai Sports.
The weather forecast for the next 24 hours when we come back.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
Regional weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In the southern region, Port Moresby, partly cloudy with chances of a shower or two. Daru and Kerma, partly cloudy with few showers. Alotau and Popondetta, mostly fine and partly cloudy. In the Momasa region, Ley, mostly fine, partly cloudy with chances of a shower or two. Medang, mostly fine and partly cloudy for Wewak and Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, Buka, partly cloudy. Kimbe, cloudy. Kokopo and Rabaul, mostly fine, partly cloudy. Lorengau and Kavieng, partly cloudy. In the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, partly cloudy with brief showers. Mendi and Wabeg, partly cloudy with few showers.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
And that's been the news, sport and weather for today's Sunday, the 4th of July 2021. From all of us here at MTV, have a safe working week, pleasant viewing, good night.